All right, let's dive right into The Godfather. I mean, everybody knows this film, right? But today we're going beyond just the movie itself, and we're really digging deep into the original screenplay.
That's right. And the screenplay, it's not just about like the making of the movie.
Yeah.
It really gives you a window into the characters' thoughts,
It really does.
their motivations, their the way they use language, even to kind of like exert their power.
And it's so fascinating to see, like, okay, that famous line we all know, I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
Right.
Well, Puzo uses that quite a bit throughout the screenplay.
Right.
And with these subtle little changes depending on the context.
Absolutely.
And you get to know the Don's character.
Oh, yeah.
Even better through that.
And you can't forget about just the cultural impact.
Oh, totally.
I mean, this film, like, really shaped how we think about
Oh, yeah.
the mafia.
Yeah.
Romanticized it, demystified it.
Yeah.
A little bit of both, really.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay, so let's start at the very beginning with Bonacera, the Undertaker.
Yeah.
I was really struck by how Puzo contrasts Bonacera's, the belief in America
Right.
with the horrible reality that he's facing.
Absolutely.
His daughter's attacked and the justice system fails him.
Right.
And he's just so incredibly disillusioned by it all.
It's that horrible moment when he realizes that the system that he thought he believed in
Yeah,
doesn't actually work for him.
totally.
And he is left with nowhere else to turn.
Yeah.
And that's why he goes to the Don as like a last resort.
And how does the Don respond?
Well, he refuses.
Yeah.
And that's the interesting thing. It's not because he's morally against violence or anything like that.
Right.
It's because Bonacera hasn't shown him the proper respect.
Yeah, and that's what I found so fascinating is it's not really about right and wrong. It's about power and hierarchy.
Yeah.
The Don has this very specific code of conduct that he follows.
Absolutely. And friendship, right?
Yeah, and he values loyalty, respect, personal connections above everything else.
You get the feeling that he's actually trying to teach Bonacera a lesson,
Yeah.
right? How to navigate this world that he's in.
Yeah.
A world where, favors and obligations,
Totally.
those are currency.
Yeah, and that scene really sets the tone, I think, for the entire story.
Oh, absolutely.
You see that this sort of twisted morality, this blend of family values and like really brutal pragmatism.
Yeah, it's like warmth and cold,
Yeah.
like right up against each other.
Yeah, and it's really what comes to define the entire Corleone family.
That's right. And you see this really on full display at Connie's wedding.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's this huge celebration. The family's united and, everybody's happy. But there's that tension bubbling under the surface,
Oh, yeah.
right? The FBI is watching the Don's enemies are lurking around.
Yeah.
And you get the sense that this whole thing, this world that they've built so carefully, it could just fall apart at any moment.
Oh, totally. And speaking of enemies, the screenplay really lays out those complex power dynamics with Johnny Fontaine's plea to the Don. Here's this famous singer, the Don's godson,
Yeah.
reduced to begging for a movie role.
That's right. He has to go and humble himself before the Don.
Yeah.
And, ask for this favor and notice the way the Don handles it, right? He doesn't just immediately say yes.
Right.
He starts with negotiation. Then he moves into a little bit of intimidation.
Mhm.
And then finally, when all that fails,
Mhm.
well,
You get the horse head.
you get the horse head.
And I've always wondered about that scene.
Yeah.
It's so shocking and memorable, but the screenplay doesn't just like describe the act.
No?
It uses this really vivid language, like emphasizing the blood and, the size of the horse's head.
Yeah.
It's almost forcing the reader to confront like the brutality
Right.
of this act.
It's not just about scaring that Hollywood producer.
Right.
It's about sending a message
Oh.
to anyone who might even think about crossing the Don.
Like, this is what happens
Right.
when you mess with me.
Yeah. And that scene really is a turning point, I think.
Oh, yeah.
You see that the Don's power, it's not just about favors or influence.
Right.
It's backed up by real terrifying violence.
Yeah, I mean, what did you think of the Don's famous line? A man who doesn't spend time with his family can never be a real man.
Right.
It's always struck me as kind of ironic,
Oh, it is.
considering his profession.
Absolutely. I mean, this guy's a criminal mastermind.
Yeah,
But he truly values family above all else.
right.
But his business constantly puts them in danger.
Yeah.
It's a huge contradiction.
Yeah, it really makes you question the whole notion of family loyalty
Absolutely.
in this world.
Yeah, and that conflict is really highlighted even more
Yeah.
when Soloza the Turk shows up with his proposal
Oh, yeah.
to get into the drug business.
Soloso, this is where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
This guy, he comes in, offers the Don a chance to get in on the drug trade.
Right.
And right away, you see Sonny's impulsiveness.
Yeah.
He's all for it,
Yeah.
but the Don is much more cautious.
He is a strategist.
Yeah.
And he understands the bigger picture. He knows that drugs could be lucrative, but he also sees the danger.
Right. He even mentions how drugs would, like, alienate his political connections.
Exactly.
It was too risky for him,
That's right.
even though he had no problem with violence.
Yeah, it's not a moral objection.
You're right.
It's a strategic one.
And that refusal is really the catalyst
Yes, it is.
for everything that happens next.
Yeah, because Sollozzo sees the Don as a threat after that
Right.
and decides to get rid of him.
And the way that the screenplay describes that assassination attempt is just chilling.
It is.
You know, the Don is buying fruit.
Yeah.
It's such an ordinary thing.
Absolutely.
It makes him seem so vulnerable.
Very human.
Yeah.
Vulnerable.
It's like anyone, even a powerful Don, can be caught off guard.
Exactly. And then Sollozzo doesn't stop there. He kidnaps Tom Hagen,
Oh my gosh.
the Don's consigliere.
Could you explain that term for listeners who might not be super familiar with the whole mafia hierarchy?
I'm sure. The consigliere is the Don's most trusted advisor.
Okay.
He's like a lawyer and strategist rolled into one.
Oh, wow.
So by taking Tom Sollozzo is really like cutting off the Don's right-hand man.
Wow. So he's essentially taking out the brains of the whole operation.
That's right. He's paralyzing the family.
Wow. And this is where we come to Michael, the youngest son,
Yes.
who really wants nothing to do with the family business.
Ooh, initially.
Right. He's the war hero he's dating.
Yeah.
Case seems like he's got his own life all planned out.
Totally different world.
Yeah. And then everything changes.
Right. That attempt on his father's life,
Yeah.
that's the turning point for Michael.
It forces him to confront his family's world.
Exactly.
And that's when he volunteers to kill Soloso and McCluskey.
It's really a moment of crisis that
Yeah.
forces him to step up.
Yeah, and that restaurant scene where Michael actually carries out the hit, it's so meticulously described in the screenplay.
Yes.
You can feel the tension. You know, it's almost like you're there watching him transform from this idealistic young man
Right.
into this cold-blooded killer.
It's a pivotal moment in the story.
Oh, totally.
He crosses a line, and there's no going back from that.
No, and the way Puzo uses language to build that tension is just masterful.
It is.
So those killings set off this whole gang war, right?
That's right.
And you really see Sonny's temper get the best of him.
Oh, yeah.
He's a powerful guy, but he's also reckless.
And ultimately, that recklessness leads to his downfall.
Yeah, it's classic tragedy, you know.
It is.
A man consumed by his own rage.
And it highlights one of the major themes of the story.
Yeah.
Violence may be necessary in this world, but it has to be controlled strategic.
Which is why the Don ultimately negotiates that peace treaty.
Exactly. He realizes that continuing the war is just going to destroy his family.
He's a pragmatist, even in the face of all that loss.
He understands that survival requires compromise.
Yeah, so Michael, now a fugitive, is sent to Sicily, where
Yeah.
he meets Apollonia.
Beautiful Apollonia.
And his time in Sicily is like this brief respite from all the violence. He
You could
falls in
say.
love, gets married.
Right.
And for a second, it seems like he might actually escape his destiny.
It does.
But then tragedy strikes again
Yes.
with Apollonia's death.
That car bombing that was meant for Michael,
It really hardens him even further.
it does.
And when he comes back to New York, his reunion with Kay
Right.
is full of this unspoken tension.
Yeah, you get the sense that their worlds are just drifting further and further apart.
Yeah.
It's clear that he can't escape his past.
Yeah. The violence, the choices he's made have changed him.
Irrevocably.
For sure.
Reading this part of the screenplay, it really struck me how Michael's journey kind of mirrors his father's.
Oh, yeah.
Remember the very beginning when Bonacera was pleading with the Don?
Right.
He had to like show respect,
Right.
acknowledge the Don's power play by his rules.
It's like the Don was saying, my world, my terms.
Exactly. And now Michael's back in New York. He's stepping into that same role.
Yeah.
He's becoming the new Don, the one that people come to for favors, but also the one that they fear.
It's such a far cry from that idealistic young man that we saw at the beginning.
Absolutely.
The war, the losses, it's all changed him.
Yeah, he's learned that in this world, power and ruthlessness, they're necessary for survival.
Yeah.
And the screenplay, it doesn't shy away from showing just how much Michael embraces those things.
And Kay is just stuck in the middle of it all.
Right.
You know, she sees this transformation.
She's horrified.
And she's terrified.
Yeah, the man that she loves is becoming somebody she barely recognizes.
Yeah, she represents that other life, you know?
Yeah. That world outside of the family business.
Outside of the family.
Right.
Yeah.
And as Michael gets deeper and deeper into the mafia, that life with Kay,
Right.
it seems less and less possible.
So the Don is recovering,
Yes.
but he's still the puppet master.
Well, absolutely.
He's orchestrating Michael's return.
Yeah, he's trying to guide him.
And guide him.
But there's a weariness to the Don now.
Yeah.
He's seeing the cost of all this violence.
Right.
And you get the sense that he wants something different for Michael.
Yeah, like a less destructive path.
Exactly.
That's why he pushes for that peace treaty with the other families.
Yes, to prevent further bloodshed.
Exact.
He knows that continued war is just going to lead to more losses.
Right.
But it's a fragile peace.
Oh, yeah. Everyone knows it's not going to last.
Yeah, and Michael, he's not really buying into it.
No, he's not buying the whole kumbaya thing.
Not at all.
Yeah.
He sees the peace treaty as just like a temporary solution.
Right. A way to buy time.
Yeah, just to buy some time.
Until he can get his revenge.
Until he can solidify his power.
For Sonny and Apollonia.
Exactly.
Yeah. So while the Don's, preaching peace.
Right.
Michael's plotting his next move.
Yeah.
It's like almost Shakespearean,
It is.
This power struggle.
This father-son conflict.
Between father and son.
Yeah, and it's not just a generational shift, it's like a clash of philosophies.
Oh, totally.
Michael, he represents a new breed of gangster.
Right.
More calculated.
More ruthless.
More ruthless.
Yeah, and that scene where the Don officially hands over control to Michael.
Oh, yeah.
It's heartbreaking.
It is.
The way he says, I never wanted this for you. I worked my whole life. I don't know what it is, but I worked to protect you.
Powerful confession.
Yeah, the Don, this powerful man,
Yeah.
admitting the corrupting nature of his world.
Yeah, admitting his regrets.
And regretting the path that his son is now on.
And at that point, it's too late for Michael.
Yeah, he's too deep.
He's already made choices, cross lines he can't uncross.
He's in too deep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in the final act of the screenplay, we see just how far he's willing to go.
Yes.
To secure that power.
To secure his power.
He orchestrates these simultaneous murders of all of his enemies.
Yeah.
And to tie those murders to Connie's baby's baptism.
I know.
It's cold.
So cold-blooded.
The screenplay puts those two things together.
Yeah.
This sacred event and this brutal act of violence.
Right.
To create this really disturbing effect.
It's chilling. It's a symbol of Michael's transformation.
Yeah.
He's not just eliminating his enemies.
Right.
He's solidifying his position as the Godfather.
And he's using a religious ceremony as cover.
Exactly.
Poor Kay.
I know.
She finally confronts Michael about the killings.
Right. She wants the truth.
But he just denies everything.
He lies right to her face.
Yeah.
And he's so good at it.
He's learned how to manipulate.
He's learned to compartmentalize.
Yeah.
Shut off his emotions.
Lie convincingly.
Yeah. And the screenplay ends with that image of Kay watching as Michael shuts her out.
Oh, yeah.
Literally closing the door on her.
It's like she's trapped.
Trapped in this world that she hates.
In this world that she never wanted to be a part of.
It's a haunting ending.
Yeah, it leaves you with a lot to think about.
It does.
Michael has achieved his goal. He's the new Godfather.
But at what cost?
But at what cost? Going through the screenplay, I was really struck by some of those little details.
Yeah.
That really add so much depth to this story, things that you might even miss in the film.
Absolutely.
Like, remember the Don's line about Hollywood being full of
Oh, yeah.
Pinocchio?
Yeah, Pinocchio.
Yeah.
Right? It reveals so much about his worldview, right?
Oh, yeah.
He sees weakness as a liability, especially in his world.
Yeah.
He views Hollywood as this place where emotions are exploited, and he's warning Johnny Fontaine.
Right.
Don't fall into that trap.
It's like he's saying, check your emotions at the door.
Right.
If you want to survive in this business.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and that disdain for weakness
Yes.
is something that Michael really inherits.
Yeah.
He sees his father's strength,
Yeah.
but also his vulnerabilities.
And he learns that to succeed, he's got to be even more ruthless, even more calculating.
Yeah. Which brings us to Michael's relationships with women.
Yes.
He has this deep connection with Apollonia and Sicily,
Right.
but then he chooses Kay.
It feels like a calculated decision.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Not a romantic one.
No?
He can't afford to be emotionally attached
Right.
to someone who might compromise his position.
Yeah. Apollonia represented a very different life.
Right. A life he could have had.
Yeah.
But in the end, he chooses power over love.
And the way Puzo writes Kay's character,
Yes.
she's not just a passive love interest.
No, not at all.
She's intelligent. She's observant.
She sees right through him.
She sees right through Michael's facade.
She challenges him. She demands honesty from him.
Yeah, but Michael's already gone too far.
She can't give her that.
At that point, he's learned to compartmentalize,
Right.
shut off his emotions.
Lie convincingly.
And that final scene, where Kay confronts him about the murders,
Yeah.
and he denies everything.
Devastating.
Heartbreaking.
It really is. It's the end of their innocence.
Yeah.
The end of any hope for them to have a real relationship.
It's a powerful indictment, I think,
Because
of the corrupting influence of power.
Michael has become the very thing he despised.
Yeah.
He's embraced the darkness, and in doing so, he's lost Kay.
So in the end, is Michael really escaping his father's legacy?
Right. Is he breaking free?
Or is he just becoming a more polished version of the Don?
That's the question that lingers, isn't it?
It really does.
He achieves everything his father built, but at a tremendous cost.
Yeah, he loses his soul in the process.
Yeah, you really get that sense.
This deep dive into the Godfather screenplay has been amazing.
It has.
I feel like I have such a better understanding now
Yeah.
of the story, the characters, the themes.
It's amazing what you can uncover when you go beyond just the surface.
Really is, and it's a testament, I think, to the power of a well-crafted screenplay.
Oh, absolutely.
Puzo created a world that's so rich, so complex,
Yeah.
that it just continues to fascinate us, decades later.
And provoke us.
And provoke us, yeah. And for our listeners, I encourage you to go back and revisit The Godfather, the film, the book, and especially the screenplay.
Yeah.
Pay attention to those little details, the dialogue, those nuances that really bring this world to life.
You might be surprised by what you discover.
You really might.